Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine your inner temple, a sacred space where the soul dwells in silence, beyond the noise of the world. Have you ever felt, within that inner silence, a hollow echo? A void that isn't emptiness, but a deep calling for the awakening of consciousness? When everything seems to be going right, why does the soul still long for something no achievement can satisfy? In this video, we're going to dive into the intimate experience of disconnection that so many people feel, even in the midst of achievements and relationships. It's an invitation to take an honest look at this existential emptiness through the lens of self-awareness. Because in truth, that emptiness is a gateway to inner transformation, a chance to reconnect with the spiritual presence and truth that already lives within you. Get ready for a journey of reflection and emotional healing. Maybe you're experiencing that quiet restlessness, a feeling that something essential is missing in your life, even though, on the outside, everything seems to be in place. That's the language of the soul, an invitation to walk the inner path, to listen deeply, and to embrace the wisdom that lives in the stillness of being. Spirituality here is not about searching for answers outside of yourself, but about an inner transformation that rises from silence and presence. In this space, we'll explore together how this sense of emptiness is actually a call for spiritual awakening and deep self-knowledge, an opportunity to rediscover the meaning of life that pulses at the core of your being. Let's walk this path with gentleness and contemplation, opening ourselves to emotional healing and to a reconnection with your deepest spiritual truth. There are moments in life when, even though everything seems to be in place, solid relationships, achieved goals, a stable routine, a subtle echo arises in the chest, a restless feeling that something essential is missing. This emptiness isn't a cold void, a lifeless absence, but rather a gentle, persistent call, a deep longing for the self that dwells in the inner temple, that sacred space at the heart of our inner city. This intimate disconnection happens even when everything appears fine on the surface. It's as if we're visiting, day after day, a forgotten place, where true presence lies in silence, waiting to be recognized. The world can offer us achievements and symbols of success, but they can never replace the voice of silence that longs to be heard. Silence as a guide, pointing to the forgotten presence. Emptiness, far from being a flaw, is an invitation to quiet the outer and inner noise, to look inward with courage and gentleness. It's a call to reconnect with the truth that never left us, only became covered by the noise of everyday life. The spiritual search is born from this empty space, not as an escape, but as a return to what has always been, the sacred dwelling of the self. The longing for the self is, in truth, a push toward reconnection, an awakening to the temple that has always been there, waiting for your attentive gaze. And you, what within you can no longer be ignored? What ancient presence is crying out to be awakened? Listen to that echo, for it is the voice of your soul longing to come home. Listening to this call is the first step. But once you answer it, something begins to crumble. The masks that once kept you safe can no longer withstand the silence of an awakened soul. And then we realize, what once protected us may now be what separates us most from what truly matters. That's when the inevitable moment arrives, the fall of the persona. We often live like actors in an invisible play, wearing masks that shield us from the fear of rejection and vulnerability. These carefully constructed layers of ego are attempts to feel safe and to belong. They create a spiritualized character, a polished image that keeps us at a distance from true contact with the self. But what protects us can also be what separates us from what truly matters. The character is an actor who, caught up in their lines and gestures, forgets they're on stage, forgets the way back to the inner temple, to the forgotten presence that pulses beyond the masks. This fall of the persona is not a defeat, but a call to courage. The courage to let the masks drop, to embrace vulnerability with gentleness, recognizing that only raw, unfiltered truth can restore our connection with the essential self. When inner silence becomes the guide, the illusion of the character loses its grip, and the forgotten presence begins to re-emerge, full of authenticity and simplicity. Practicing this fall means identifying the roles that pull us away from our truth, noticing when the spiritual persona becomes a form of escape rather than a true path. It is in the attentive listening to this silence that the soul finds space to be reborn. And you? What role are you playing that distances you from your true self? What mask is ready to be set aside? Listen to the silence behind the performance and feel the presence that patiently waits to be remembered. When the mask falls, what emerges is not chaos. It's the sacred space that has always been there, hidden behind the persona, veiled by performance. The return to what is essential doesn't require effort, only remembrance. The sacred doesn't need to be chased. It only needs to be recognized. At the center of our existence, there is a sacred space that was never earned, because it has always been there. Unlike what we often believe, the sacred is not something to be achieved or acquired, but something to be recognized. So often, we chase outer lights, teachings, and practices that promise to reveal the sacred, without realizing that the true path lies in unlearning the world, unlearning the beliefs that cloud the soul, letting go of the expectations that block presence. This is the most profound act of reconnection. This process isn't a race. It's an invitation to let silence be the guide, to be with what is, without resistance, without urgency, without needing to fix anything. There, in meeting the simple, the essential self reveals itself as the quiet dwelling of truth. It's in this space that the inner temple, so often forgotten in the rush of life, becomes visible again, like a candle glowing in a dark chamber, waiting for attentive eyes to light the way. The flame doesn't need to be fueled by great effort, only by a steady gaze and peaceful acceptance. The forgotten sacred is not far away. It is the overlooked presence that lives in every moment, every breath, every pause. When we stop the frantic search, what has always been with us becomes our anchor, the quiet reference point that supports our whole existence. When the sacred is finally recognized, not as something distant, but as the very nature of being, something begins to settle. The urge to search gradually fades, like a river that, after many detours, finds its course again. But the rediscovery of this forgotten presence requires more than understanding. It requires listening. And deep listening can only bloom in the space that silence provides. The mind shouts, the soul whispers, and that's why we so often fail to hear what matters most. We live immersed in noise, not just external sounds, but inner noise, looping thoughts, self-judgments, mental images of who we think we should be. In the midst of this chaos, truth hides, not because it's shy, but because its nature is quiet and simple. It doesn't compete. It waits. Silence as a guide is not the absence of sound. It is full presence. It's the space where everything is revealed without needing to be explained. It doesn't hand us ready-made answers, but leads us to a place within where no question is necessary. There, the forgotten presence recognizes itself, and the longing for the self dissolves into reunion. But being silent isn't easy. The ego fears this quiet space because there are no masks to hold up in it, only what is. The fear of silence is, in truth, the fear of losing control, of being faced with a truth that cannot be shaped, only embraced. That's why silence is an act of courage, and also of surrender, not to achieve something, but to allow the essential to emerge. Like a stone at the bottom of a lake, truth is revealed when the waters of the mind grow still. Try it. For 5 minutes, just breathe. Don't try to understand, fix, or search. Just be. Silence is the temple where the soul begins to speak again. And it doesn't shout. It simply is. When we allow silence to reveal, we discover that we are not what we think, nor what we project. Truth doesn't come like a crash, but like a steady whisper, an ancient melody that has always been playing beneath the noise. And in hearing it, we begin to glimpse something even more essential, the call of the soul, not as a task, but as presence. not as something to reach for, but as something already pulsing within us. There's a quiet idea, often unspoken but deeply felt, that we need to find a grand mission, a clear purpose, a lofty goal to justify our existence. Too often, we chase this mission with the same urgency that drives us after titles, achievements, and applause. But what if this chase itself is the detour? The spiritual persona, still subtle, can dress this pursuit in noble garb, someone who wants to serve the world, evolve, or fulfill a higher purpose. Yet behind this, there can still be the need for validation, the idea that we'll only be whole when we're seen, recognized, and useful. The longing for the self, however, doesn't ask us to do something extraordinary. It invites us to fully live what we already are. The soul's mission isn't a specific action. It's a vibration, a frequency, a way of being present in the world. It's not measured by deeds, but by truth. It doesn't require applause. It doesn't depend on an audience. Like a tree that blooms even when no one is watching, the self expresses itself when there is inner space. When we stop chasing the extraordinary and begin to inhabit the simple with depth, the soul's call doesn't come as a command. It comes as a melody, and it can only be heard when the noise of performance fades. Close your eyes and listen. What is pulsing within you, even if it goes unnoticed? There lies the meaning. There lies the inner temple, alive, silent, whole. After journeying through the forgotten presence, the fall of the masks, and the silence that reveals, it's time to welcome the space where the soul can simply be. It is in this space, between noise and silence, that the truth of the self unfolds without rush, without effort, just by being. Allow yourself to walk this path of fertile silence, discovery, and reconnection. Let silence be a constant invitation to listen to what your soul whispers, to be fully present even when everything seems absent. If something within you has calmed or awakened while hearing these words, allow yourself to continue. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to walk with us on this path that nurtures silence and authentic presence. Share your experience in the comments. Your story is also a seed of healing for other hearts seeking reunion. And to keep expanding this field of presence, we suggest the following video. May it be a gentle and profound breath on your journey. The truth about the sixth sense no one told you. Peace and light.